Hey everyone, this is Crystal with Crystal Spot Podcast. I'm super excited today to introduce our new guest, Kim DeYoung. She is passionate about supporting others to raise their level of consciousness about the choices they make. You know, we're all about choices and deciding the best route for our life. So I'm super excited to have her on here. She is a choice coach, entrepreneur, and the author of the book called The Book of Choice. She draws on many years of research and experience and has a fresh and appealing approach to decision making that will transform your way of thinking. In her book, she shares her comprehensive guide and choice mapping process to equip readers with practical strategies to navigate life's complexities, empowering them to make choices that align with their values and aspirations. And for those who watch the podcast or read the magazine, you know we're always about making choices that align with your values and how important that is. Kim has a deep desire and passion to supporting others to have meaningful conversations about their choices. And we're going to talk today about the limiting beliefs that get in the way of the choices that matter to us. Thank you for being our guest today, Kim.
I'm so glad to be here with you. Thank you.
So as we are gearing up, 2024 is getting pretty close. I don't know the exact day count from now, but we are wrapping up this year. And I think a lot of people are in that space that they're trying to figure out, is what's serving me now going to serve me in the future? So one of the things I was super excited about when I read your profile is that you help people make those choices and kind of tell the limiting belief or that background voice so you can make those choices. So tell us some of the things that you do when you work with your clients.
You know, your question is so timely. I was away this weekend doing a workshop, a small workshop with some young men. They're all under 25. And they had been reading the book with me. And one of the questions that had come up for them that they wanted to focus on was, how are the stories that we're telling about ourselves, i.e. our limiting beliefs, how are those getting in the way of us being who we want to be? And it was very interesting. So I've been working with them for close to 2 years. So they're able to be quite vulnerable and open with me. And first, we really kind of documented for each of them, like, what are their stories? What are the things that are holding them back? And it was everything from, I'm not good enough. What if I fail? What if I get rejected? The age-old types of beliefs that hold many of us back. And then I posed the question to them and I said, who would you be if you didn't have your story holding you back? Who would you be?
Wow.
And even as I say that to you, I get such chills just saying it, because what was really beautiful that I ended up doing with them was that we began to look at a personal, professional, and relationship choice that they each wanted to make. And I posed it. I said, keep in mind, as you begin to come up with the words that resonate with you, who can you be without being held back by the story? And then we began each sentence with, I am the man who. I am the man who does this professionally. And we were talking in a year time frame. So it was really tangible, but I watched their body language change. Like I watched them own their words, and I kept going back and repeating the words until they really landed with them, until it was like, okay, I got the sentence or two correct. Like, this is what you're owning. And I watched one of the young men who, has been held back thinking, he's not a well-motivated kid, and that's his thing. And I listened to one of the things he said. He said, I am a man who steps forth to do whatever I want without hesitation. And I thought, oh my God, like, you've been telling us how held back you are by this story that you've got of not being well-motivated. And look at you. Look at what you have just stated for your very best friends to hear. And what was interesting at a previous time in that conversation, I had said to him, I said, look, there is, of course, always an opportunity to do the work of therapy, to understand where the belief comes from, what it's rooted in, how to maybe let it go. And concurrently, you can also choose to shove that belief to the side to say, I am not letting it get in my way. Like, I want what I want in the future so much. then I'm not going to be held back. And both can be going on at the same time. I mean, I'm a big believer in therapy, and I think we want to understand our things, but I don't know that you have to wait to move forward until you've done all the therapy.
I love that. You don't have to pause your development and your growth to try to understand it, because then you just keep taking time. And time
Yeah.
is, like you said, it's our most valuable resource. I love that. One of the processes I went through over this last year was, what have other people said to me that or don't no longer hold value? Like kind of your story, because we
Mhm.
tell the story to ourselves, but then we also, especially as children, have stories that are placed upon us that no longer serve us. So
Yes.
I love that you talk to your young men about that. I think a lot of us, especially, a lot of our audience members are women and business owners who are trying to figure out, okay, am I good enough to have this company? Am I worthy of this raise? If something bad happens to me, is that because that's just what I deserve and who I am? And all of us have so many limiting beliefs. So as you were working with your people and you talk about the choices you make, is there a way to kind of, this is going to be kind of weird, I'm trying to phrase it right. Do you have them apologize to that choice, or do you just say, hey, this happened, it's not good or bad, let's move forward? Or what is the process in that?
Yeah. Well, I'll answer that question in two parts.
Yeah.
So first, it's kind of the question of, where does the story come from originally?
Mhm.
So, and often there's an opportunity for us to look back. Usually stories come in one of two ways. You brought up one example, which is they're kind of foisted on us. So our parents, people in our life may have created something about us. Oh, you're the lazy one. Oh,
Yeah.
you're the, and it becomes a label, but the label now becomes ingrained in who we are, and it becomes a story. So that's one way. But another way that stories happen for us is that we made a choice in the past, and maybe that wasn't the best choice, and maybe we did something we shouldn't have done, hurt someone we shouldn't have hurt. Like, we've all done that.
Of course.
But then what happens is that the baggage of that choice, the shame of that choice, the guilt of that choice, the lack of the ability to forgive that choice, that now becomes baggage that prevents you from showing up in the future as well. So you asked it interestingly, and I'd actually like to reflect on the way your question was, which was, do you apologize to yourself? I haven't thought of it that way as much, but I think it's interesting. I think I'm a big believer that no choice is a wrong choice. Each choice is a lesson for growth. So
Mhm.
to be able to go back, and maybe it is a form of apology and forgiveness and acceptance, and actually get to the root of where that choice comes from, so that allowed the story to form. And I have found that there are kind of three quintessential things in our life that lead to those stories. It's often, how we were parented, so there are stories that come from that. There are stories that we've created because of how we may have shown up in a relationship. And
Mhm.
there are stories that we have created because of money. How have we acted with money? How has money shown up in our life or not? And now we have all of this baggage, and you brought up worth. Am I worth it? I have all of these stories of how I showed up with money, whatever happened. And now here I am, a grown woman, stepping into a job that I know intellectually I'm capable of, but that voice in the past is like, are you really worth it? Can you really do it? All of that negative junk shows up, and it gets in the way. And until we really make peace with those stories and those limiting beliefs, it does affect who we have the potential to be. It really does.
I love what you said about the money element. So many of us don't realize your relationship with money affects so many of your decisions, whether you think you're worthy of keeping it or saving it or spending it, or your choices. Because I grew up in, we were very poor, so I'll say poverty. And my relationship with money was, oh, it's bad. Like, only people with money treat you bad, and you're still a good person if you're poor. Obviously those things are true, but multiple things can be true at the same time. And I thought to myself, when you were just saying that, is how has money showed up in your story? Because I know as I've grown up and I've raised my children, we've been in this feast or famine mindset. which means that you're not protecting what you have. So you're not worthy to keep the money. So once you make the money, you have to spend it immediately because you're not smart enough to keep it. So it's crazy that you brought those three things up, because I've always heard about your limiting beliefs being from your parents or the choices you've made, but I've never thought about it from the choices you make. As a women who are listening to this, who are getting promotions or changing their pay scales or going out on their own, I think it is important to realize your relationship with money and the stories you tell yourself about whether you're good at. I know one of the things I had when I started my business was, oh, I'm not good at math, but I do paychecks, payrolls, taxes, all profit loss statements. I'm like, well, maybe I am good at math. And I've had to change that language. What are some tips you encourage people as they realize and kind of root down to what their story is, to not, I don't want to call it an affirmation statement, because when you said what you said about those young men, that felt like I got chills. So it's a little bit beyond that, but like, how do you get people to change their mindset and their verbiage so they can say, here is who I am, this is how I show up? What are some steps?
Yeah, I'm thinking to a specific woman, and this goes back so many years ago. She was someone who wanted to step forth into the speaking space, beautiful motivational speaker. And I said, I'm curious, what could hold you back from being the speaker that you want? She listed like 10 things. And just intuitively, I just didn't feel like those 10 things were real anymore. I was like, can we just like honestly go through each one? And can you tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, these things that you just said that hold you back, do they really, like on a scale of 1 to 10? It was very interesting. I would say the first couple were, I'm scared people won't like me. I was like, seriously, like you're a grown woman with children. Are you really worried people aren't going to like you? Is that maybe an old story? She's like, you're right. That's a 2. Let's let that go. She's like, give me another. And we begin going through this until we did get to an example of something that was more highly charged. So as an example, in her case, it was the story of, I can't go and be this motivational speaker because to do that, I really need to have a website, but to have a website, I need to be technically proficient, and I hate all that stuff and I don't want to do it. And I was like, wait a minute. First of all, who said you have to do it? And then now it goes into money. And she's like, but I don't have the money to pay for it. I said, I get it. I do. I have been at every stage of entrepreneurship. I do get it. I said, however, if you want to be out there, is there a dance between maybe I find someone, even if I get rid of 5 hours of stuff that is not my genius work, that is not serving me, that if somebody else could do, and I put those 5 hours into my genius to getting out there to things that can pay me, that's where you start to realize, like, are the stories, do they have the hold on you? So now you get to a place where you realize there are stories that have a hold, and there are many. Money is such a big one, because not only is, you brought up coming from a place of poverty, you've got legacy belief in there. Yes. So, there could be a lot of stuff rooted in you, for example, or others like you who are like, well, God, I was always told that people who make money are bad. How am I now going to
of all evils? Yeah.
Will I alienate myself from my family if I go and achieve what I want? Am I bad compared to my family? Have I gone to the dark side of all the rich people? You can imagine these, and these are all self-sabotaging things that I think so much changes when you have the awareness to own it. I think as adults, if you were to say that, like, really, am I going, because I've definitely gone through this personally, am I going to let who I was as a little girl, or the stories that I've heard spoken about money, am I going to let those affect me as a grown woman? And I don't know that it's so much of an affirmation that we need, but sometimes just stating it and like, is that really going to hold me back? And one of the exercises I take people through, both in the book and in private coaching, is this experience as they're stepping into a choice, always to look at why the choice matters, but the push-pull of what could hold you back from the choice, as well as what's possible. And if what's possible, if you've really gone there maybe with the support of a friend or somebody who deeply cares for you, and you can get that what's possible really juicy, often that can pull you through the junk of the. Because if you want that thing so much on the other end, you're going to be like, am I really going to let that stupid fear, that limiting belief, am I going to let that get in my way? So it just becomes like, that. I mean, just as an example, I made a commitment when I put my book out there that I was going to speak and be out there with a message, i.e. this podcast, et cetera. And I get invited to speak to 300 women. I had never spoken to 300 women in person.
Amazing.
And I said yes before I could say no, just so I would. And of course, did every limiting belief show up as it does? I mean, public speaking is a horrifyingly scary thing. But I was not letting that get in my way of doing it, no matter how scared I was and all the things. I thought, Kim, you have to do that. I must do that because I knew what was possible on the other side. So the fears and beliefs didn't necessarily go away. I just didn't let them like affect what I wanted.
I love that. I think what you said was really important because it's not going to go away. But if you can recognize it and saying it out loud, like just even us having this conversation, just like, am I really going to let the people think I'm bougie or stuck up because I have success? And I've gotten past that years in the making. I've been running my own business for quite a while now, but it's like, there are some things that you say that you feel like makes other people feel comfortable, but sometimes they're not going to be comfortable with your growth, and they're not going to be comfortable as you set your choices and you put away those limiting beliefs. Because, we talk about breaking generational curses a lot. And part of that is because people have let the trauma and the beliefs of your ancestors or generations ahead of you affect you in today. And in today, Crystal shows up this way, regardless of the critics. I love that. I was going to ask you two questions. Where can they find your book? And I want to make sure we give a plug for all your social media and all of those things.
Well, the book is called The Book of Choice. I've created a special page that from that page it accesses Amazon, but I've created some really great videos that go deeper into the content. And that URL is yourchoicebook.com. And that, it's just these videos are wonderful because they take you deeper into some of the concepts. And then something else that I created that I think people will enjoy, I've just recently created a quiz that helps you to understand what type of decision maker you are. Yeah. And what is great about understanding that is that, we each have the strengths of our decision-making type, and we each have the opportunities for growth. So to understand that, and also to understand the different personality types out there. So, you may be the charge ahead decision maker, you don't think, versus, your partner is like stick his head in the sand, doesn't want to make it, and how do you navigate that? So that's accessible at thechoicequiz.com.
Yes, I just signed up for that this morning, and
Thank
my
you.
goal was to do it before we got on the call, but the day always happens the way it happens. But I'm super excited to try that out. And do you want people to order your book on Amazon? Is that the best way to get it, or just
Well, if they go through the website, it clicks to Amazon, but they'll have an opportunity to come back, put in their Amazon order number, and get these free videos, which are wonderful.
And I'd like to do a contest for those who go on there and fill out the quiz and check out this podcast. Comment below. We're going to have this linked on Instagram and on YouTube that you've done the things. And once I verify with Kim, I'm going to send you a free book, because I think we all, as we're preparing for 2024 and wrapping up 2023, we have 3 good months to get in the right headspace and show up as our best and highest form. And I'm super excited to do this journey with you.
Thank you. And I'll throw something in there for what it's worth. If it's interesting, maybe we add some sweetness to the contest.
Yeah.
Those who get it and partake, I will guide them in the book group. Like we could do some kind of a live something, and we engage in a really rich conversation with people who've read the book. So if that's something to add to the contest that might be a lot of fun.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you so much. Can you give everyone your social media handles so they can find you? I know we have your website, and we'll also have everything listed below, guys. So you can find out about the quiz. You'll get the link to the website and the videos and the contest rules.
So. Best place to find me on social is on Instagram at Kim DeYoung.
All right.
It's from my website, so it's easy to find.
Great. Thank you so much for being our guest today. I think you gave us a lot of good information and some homework. Thank you.